It's been 15,000 miles with our new Juniper Refresh Model Y, and today we're going to talk about all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly, and yes, there were some ugly moments.
No, it's not. Oh,
This, of course, is the 2026 Tesla Model Y. It is the refresh or redesign, the update to the world's best-selling car of any type. This Model Y is quite the car, and we're going to cover all of that in today's video. So make sure you stick around to the end because there's good, there's bad, and of course, like I said, there's also some ugly. Now, over the course of that 15,000 miles, it's really more like 16,500. I have some good news. Our previous Model Y was the exact same spec as the one you see behind me, so I have some really good comparative data based on the previous generation versus the current, not just ride comfort and features, but how this thing performs. Literally long-range all-wheel drive with acceleration boost and the upgraded 20-inch wheels. That is the same exact spec we had in our previous Model Y. So this is going to be a really good comparison, and some of the numbers are pretty compelling. Now, in our case, this is a 2026 Tesla Model Y long-range all-wheel drive, and we got a launch series. That means it was one of the first ones that came, and it required you to have every option. You could pick any color, any interior. It was all the same price, and it all came with full self-driving. That was not an option. That came in about $60,000. And when you do the math today, it's a little bit of a discount compared to what it would cost to set up the car exactly the same. So in reality, there are ways to do this cheaper than the launch series that we got. But with that said, we have version 14 full self-driving today, hardware 4 on this vehicle, and we've had quite the experience. But before we get to that, let's dive into some of the details on the inside. Now, join me on the inside of the car because I want to point out a couple of things. We got the white interior, and this is the same interior that we had on our previous Model Y. A lot of people are concerned about white interior, especially if you have kids, and this is after 16,000 miles of some pretty significant use. And minus some of the shadows that you're seeing, the seats are still in fantastic condition. Now, there are some concerns that people have, and rightfully so. The back seats are perforated just like the front is, which means with your kids back here eating absolutely everything under the sun and making the biggest mess in the world, even a mess you didn't think was possible, they do tend to get stuff into these holes. Generally speaking, with a shop vac, it does all come out. However, I do have one spot that I need to work on. So this is the one area that I need to work on getting that little bit out. But as you can see, it's actually in the little perforations, which is kind of a bummer. These back seats are not cooled. So these being ventilated like this, they don't really need to be. That's one area that I think Tesla has an opportunity, not just for cost cutting potentially, but to make this a better experience for parents. These aren't cooled seats anyway, so why not just have them sealed off just like this, still be a white interior, and then you can leave the front seats perforated for the cooling feature. Now, like our Cybertruck and our previous Model X, this rear screen, we love having it. With 2 kids, this thing is clutch. It streams videos that we like, and it also allows kids to play games, which nowadays they're starting to do more of the games on this screen than they had ever done before. But on road trips or day-to-day use, this thing makes life so much more enjoyable for those of us in the front. It does a lot of different things, and of course it has 2 of our USB-Cs right here to add power for charging devices for these 2 minions in the back seat. Now, this is how you control the vents and everything, so there's no manual control. It's all done by the screen, just like it is on the front of the car, and that is nice in the sense that I can also control it from this screen up here by controlling the rear screen, so you can actually mess with it without reaching around. So that's kind of nice. But also some of the other things that you can do with this, we can actually fold the seats, we can move the front seat forward, we can move it back. So there's a few things you can do back here on this screen that are kind of convenient. As you can see, it can tell I'm sitting on this seat, so it won't allow me to fold, but I can fold this seat since it's powered. It'll do that from the screen. Now, back onto the good stuff. This is where all of our apps are. And by the way, there was a period of time where Disney and Tesla, I guess, didn't get along. So the Disney app doesn't always natively appear on the screen in the car. Fear not. All you have to do is go to disneyplus.com on the front screen, and then this app will appear, and it'll be here forever. So just for those of you who have Disney Plus because of your kids, that's how you get it. Now over to our games, tons of games, and these continue to get added, changed, updated. So lots of fun for the kids. I normally don't spend a lot of time on this rear screen, but I'm telling you, we have gotten so much use over the last year, and every year it seems to be more convenient than the year before by having this screen. So I'm really happy with this, and I think that this rear screen is a huge plus in the Refresh Model Y. Now, obviously, one of the things that's amazing about Model 3s and Model Ys are this huge piece of glass on the top. It really does open up the whole space, and it adds a lot of light in here. Add that with the white seats, and this is a really airy, open space, and you really feel connected to the outside, and that is nice. What's also nice is this generation they did add more, I think it's silver or nickel, or so, I think it's silver that they put into the glass to add more heat rejection. Now down here in Florida, that's still not enough, so we do have a shade that we put up when it's really hot, and we take it down during the winter months. So that does help with keeping it cooler in here, but I really do love having these huge pieces of glass on the roof. Although that said, from the front seat, you don't really get much use out of it, but it does add in a lot of light. And while we're on to the back seat, I do want to talk about these seat backs. These have updated, no longer have a pocket, and they're all a piece of like, I don't know, soft touch plastic now, which is nice, but these I thought would be much more fragile than they ended up being. There's still no scratches. They do get kicked all the time, and I just cleaned and wiped them down, and man, they're doing pretty well. I just don't like this. These things are not great. They don't hold stuff very well, and yeah, they're just not ideal because they're open on the sides, but it's such a minor thing. I did want to point it out nonetheless. I did also want to point out an area where we're having a bit of an issue. So our kids have been putting their feet right here, and every time I wash this car, this piece of plastic is pushed out, and it's from this child that this piece of plastic keeps getting kicked out. And so our kids putting their feet there and pushing on it, and it's continuing to pop out. So I don't know if there's a solution for that, but this is definitely a wear spot with kids. One of the other minor updates that actually is a lot of fun is, of course, the light bar. The light bar does go in the back. You can see it all the way around. It surrounds the whole car for a really fun experience for everybody in the car. You can set it to play with the music, so it'll pump. You can set it to change colors to match the album artwork, and it'll do all kinds of fun things. This I really like, and it also adds a nice ambiance at night, and you can control how bright or dim it is, which is a huge plus. That was a software update, and another good example of the power of software with features. All right, so let's head into the front of the vehicle here. Of course, you know what the front of Model Y looks like. It looks very similar to the previous generation, except for the dash. Everything else looks very similar. A little bit of an update to the center console, not much, but of course we have these seats up here. Now I want to say these seats are generally similar or the same shape as previous, but they have perforations in them now, and they're cooled. Because of that, the cushioning is just a little bit slimmer, and that means they're actually slightly firmer seats than the previous generation. But the last seats are literally the softest lazy boy type seats I have ever sat in a car. These are still very comfortable, but they're just a hair firmer than the previous generation, so that is something that you will notice. But that does come with cooled seats, which is way worth it for the trade-off. One of the things I love most about the Model Y is kind of this cockpit space that you have. It is very nice, it's comfortable, it gives everything that you need right here. Now we've added this heads-up display, which you can check out that video up here somewhere. Other than that, this is kind of what you're looking at. I do have this phone charger from Magback, which is pretty awesome. This is where my phone goes, so I can visually see my phone while I'm driving down the road, which is helpful, and full self-driving doesn't get upset with you for doing that. This is about as far right as you can look without FSD getting too upset. These chargers down here, these do work, and the only downfall is they're not actively cooled, which is starting to become a standard feature in cars in this price range. So this is more of a phone cooker. Not quite as bad as the Cybertruck, but it definitely warms up your phone a lot there. Now this charger might also, but because it's next to the vent, it actually cools it off so you don't really notice. The screen is slightly updated, and it's the bezel that's a little bit different in the shape. So like the screen protector on the previous one won't fit this car. It's just that much different, just a hair. It's like an iPhone update on the screen. Now the performance, I believe, has an even newer screen, slightly bigger. It's just minimally bigger, but as far as animations and responsiveness, you can't really match Tesla's ability to integrate software and hardware for a seamless user experience. It's super easy to figure out. It is truly the iPhone of cars. So everything that you need is super easy to find and all of that. Now this back has been somewhat controversial for people, and I can understand there's a taste to it. I personally love the back of this car. This light bar is amazing, and it puts off this really cool afterburner look glow behind the car in red, which is really cool. I do have one friend that said something to me that kind of stuck and will probably stick with a lot of you, is at night this looks incomplete. So the edges, it should wrap around like this, but they don't light up. So it's just this glow until you hit the brake lights. So to him, that's really not cool. There's big open space here at the bottom. The purpose of all of this is for repairability, making instead of one piece, it's now like 3 pieces. So the cost of repairing the rear of this car has gone down tremendously. But I'm telling you, this light, it doesn't just look cool, it actually functions really well. Now, while we're back here, let's go ahead and open it up. And this is probably one of the biggest reasons you want to consider the Model Y. This car has so much space. I love this car. This is without a doubt the best all-around car you can buy today, in my opinion. And it's because a combination of the range, the price, and the space. This space in the back is a huge plus, especially for families. You can fit any stroller back here. You can fit car seats in the middle. You have room for everybody. And then you also have all this space down here for a suitcase. And then you have a little compartment in front of it as well. You have these side pockets. You have a 12 volt back here. Now that the second row is powered, we now have powered buttons back here. And this parcel shelf is kind of cool because it's magnetic, so it's easy to take out and put in. And it does technically have a storage spot down here where it's cut out. I'm kind of back and forth on it. I think some people will get a lot of use out of this with privacy of your items back here for security, and some of you will never use it. So for those people, just take it out. And that, however, I do utilize from time to time. Now onto the front of the car. The light bar on the front of this car is now iconic with this new look, and this is pretty sick. I love this light bar. Yes, it is broken up into 3 pieces, but at night it looks really cool. Even during the day it looks really cool. The thing I don't like is that the headlights are now down here and you don't have a fog light. That said, these headlights are next level. They are amazing. These are adaptive matrix headlights, and what that means is these things can literally turn on and off pixels around cars coming towards you or in front of you. So literally you'll see like a U shape around all the cars in front of you, which is really cool. This thing adds probably the best vision at night of any headlights I've ever had. And that's without fog lights, even though I say I miss the fog lights, because actually this car is way better at illuminating the road than any car I've had with fog lights. Now the final thing to talk about are the wheels and tires. So we ended up with the 20-inch wheels because we had the launch series. It made sense to get every option because it didn't change the price. And what you're looking at here, it's actually just a wheel cover that you're able to get for the 20-inch wheels to make them black, and it looks a lot better this way. I also have some unplugged performance wheels that I really love, and those are going back on here shortly. But these Hankook ion tires are really good, and this is part of the whole package of reducing the sound level inside the cab of this car. These tires are super quiet, and these tires, in combination with the suspension updates on this car, this is actually a much more comfortable ride, less harsh, and a lot more plush. And on that note, I do want to take you around a couple areas here. So this is like a soft touch. It's not just like a plastic. Everything kind of feels padded, including the headliner, everything. And there's a lot more carpet rather than plastic. All of this is for sound deadening, and this is legitimately a much more quiet experience in the car. So adding in the ride comfort and the quietness, this is very much a different car than it used to be. So look, there's a lot to love about this car, and I do truly love this car. It is still today the best car you can get, the best value you can get, whether it's gas or electric. The price, it's a little bit on the higher side, but when you look at the average new car price, it's nothing crazy. This car has a ton of features packed in for that price. There's no other car on the road that can perform like this, autonomously like this thing can. And it does it in a very different way than most companies have approached autonomy. Now that leads into a bit of the downside that we've had with this car. In my full self-driving journey, I have gone from very critical of full self-driving to becoming a believer, especially with vision only. I was very skeptical of this until V12 came out, and then I saw a path to this actually working. Version 13 was a huge step forward, and our last version of 13, I was so convinced that this thing was able to go coast to coast that I actually put my money where my mouth is. I drove this thing out to San Diego and then attempted to go coast to coast without taking over. Now, unfortunately, we did have an issue, and that has since been allegedly solved with new software, and that will continue to get better. But in the spirit of trying to go coast to coast without taking over, we actually ran over something that I thought was just something minor and ended up being something very serious. But what it did is it exposed one issue that I've very rarely heard and certainly never experienced myself, and that was advanced cell failure in the battery pack. Now, the good news is these batteries are covered for well over 100,000 miles, but that was something that I had not experienced myself, and I don't know anybody personally who has had a pack failure, certainly at 15,000 miles. And that's exactly what happened. And once we made that impact, it only accelerated what was already happening. So fortunately for me, repairs were covered under warranty. But this isn't something that's normal for Tesla. In fact, they have world-class battery tech, and it's very uncommon for a battery to fail in a Tesla. So full circle here. Is this car a home run? It absolutely is. This car is so good. The previous generation was so good. It's everything that car was and then some. They have looked at the previous generation, what could be worked on, what could be better about that car, and that is what we're looking at right here. The Juniper Model Y, the Refresh Model Y, this thing is quiet, it's smooth, it has really good real-world range, and because of the Tesla charging network, road trips are a breeze. Add in the comforts on the inside, the new features for your passengers in the back seat, and some of the updated enhanced features like cooled seats. That makes this car top of the list. So when it comes to this car, here are the regrets that I have. I was back and forth on the color of the car specifically, and I ultimately switched from ultra red to quicksilver, and I also upgraded to the 20-inch wheels. In hindsight, the 20-inch wheels with alloy look, they're kind of dated, especially with Quicksilver. They look terrible on Quicksilver. I wish I would have changed at least the paint color. After seeing these things on the road quite a bit nowadays, I think white is actually the best color in this car, especially with the standard wheels, or at least changing out the wheels to something black. That white and black contrast looks amazing with tinted windows. That's probably the spec I would go with today. The Launch Series doesn't really add anything too crazy that you can't get today by ordering a new car. It's just some minor things like some badging and a little bit of trim work and stuff like that. But everything else is basically what you get anyways. The white interior is a must. The 20-inch wheels, it's up to you if you really want them. The standard wheels are always just fine. The 20-inch wheels do add a little bit more of a stance on the side, but you could probably save that money and get something a little bit nicer, kind of like what we did. Making sure that you pick the color you really want, especially now that these things are on the road. You've probably seen plenty of them. You're probably starting to get a good idea of which color looks best. Add those things in together and not be afraid of choosing white interior, because it is the best color and the only color to think about. And that makes for quite the car to have. And with that, I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one.